Okay, so AI, it seems like it's everywhere these days.
Oh, it is.
But you know what's really interesting to me is that it's not just changing like how we work or shop or, do things in our daily lives.
Right.
It's changing how we learn.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today in this deep dive, the impact of AI on schools.
Yeah, I think what's so fascinating is this isn't something we're talking about way off in the future.
Yeah.
This is happening right now.
Right.
And in fact, the report we're looking at called The Impact of AI on Schools really suggests that AI could completely reshape the classroom as we know it.
And it's not just about robots replacing teachers.
Right.
Although I have to admit that image sometimes pops into my
I
head.
think we've all had that thought.
Yeah. But it's about using AI to make learning more personalized and effective for every student.
Exactly. And take, for example, like personalized learning.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine a world where instead of every student slogging through the same textbook at the same pace, there's a program that can adapt to your individual needs.
Yeah.
Like, say, if you're a visual learner, it could present information through interactive simulations rather than, pages and pages of text.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So it's like almost having a personal tutor who knows exactly how you learn best.
Precisely. And this level of personalization can really make a huge difference in how effectively students learn.
Right.
In fact, the report even mentions a study where students who are using an AI-powered math program actually saw their scores improve significantly faster than those using like traditional methods.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, wouldn't creating individual learning plans for every single student be a logistical nightmare for teachers?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point, but that's where AI's ability to automate tasks can really come in.
Okay.
Think about all the time teachers spend grading, taking attendance, doing paperwork.
Right.
AI can handle all of that.
Really?
And it can free up teachers to actually focus on what they do best, teaching and mentoring students.
So it's not about taking over. It's about, taking on some of those more routine tasks so that the teacher can really focus on that human element of education.
Exactly. And that extra time could mean shorter school days. It could mean more one-on-one attention for students who need it, or even just, give teachers a chance to catch their breath.
I can already hear teachers everywhere cheering at that thought.
Me too.
But what about students with disabilities?
Yeah.
Can AI really make a difference there?
Oh, absolutely. And the report highlights some really exciting developments in this area.
Okay.
For example, AI-powered speech-to-text software can help students with dyslexia participate more fully in class discussions. And things like AI sign language interpreters can make learning accessible for deaf students in a way that just wasn't possible before.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like it's leveling the playing field for students who have traditionally faced barriers in education.
Precisely, and it goes beyond just providing accommodations.
Oh.
AI can actually help identify students who are struggling before they even fall behind.
Oh, wow.
Imagine a system that can track a student's progress in real time
Right.
and alert the teacher if they're consistently missing certain concepts or falling behind their peers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's like an early warning system for academic success.
Exactly.
Instead of waiting for a student to fail a test, you can intervene early and provide the support they need.
Yeah, and this type of data-driven insight can be incredibly powerful, especially for students who might slip through the cracks in a more traditional classroom setting.
Okay, so far, AI in schools sounds pretty amazing.
It does have a lot of potential.
But I know there are some concerns about all this too, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, as with any new technology, there are definitely some potential downsides that we need to consider carefully.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest is data privacy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If AI is collecting all this information about students' learning styles, their strengths, their weaknesses, even their emotional states, where does all that data go?
Right.
And who has access to it?
It's a crucial question, and the report really emphasizes the need for strong safeguards to protect student data and ensure that it's not misused.
Because let's face it, even with the best intentions, things can go wrong.
Yeah.
Data breaches happen, algorithms can be biased, and there's always the risk of someone using this information in ways that weren't intended.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to have, these open and honest conversations about data privacy.
Right.
And to establish, really clear guidelines and regulations for how AI is used in schools.
Okay, so data privacy is a big one.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about the potential for AI to widen the gap between well-funded and under-resourced schools.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a valid concern?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
If only certain schools can afford the latest AI-powered tools and training for teachers, it could create an even more uneven playing field. And that's something we need to be very mindful of as we move forward.
Because the goal should be to make quality education accessible to all students,
Right.
regardless of their background or zip code.
Exactly. And that means addressing these equity concerns head-on and ensuring that AI is used to bridge the gap and not widen it.
Okay, so we've talked about data privacy.
Yeah.
We've talked about equity.
Yeah.
Two pretty big hurdles to overcome.
They are.
But what about the impact on teachers themselves?
Yeah.
I'm picturing, a classroom full of kids staring at screens
Right.
while a robot teacher lectures them on the Pythagorean theorem.
Right.
Is that the future we're headed for?
Well, I think that's a common fear, but the reality is much more nuanced than that.
Okay,
The report's very clear on this point.
okay.
AI is a tool. It is not a replacement for teachers.
Okay, so it's not about robots versus teachers.
Right.
It's about robots and teachers working together.
That's right.
But how would that even work?
Well, think of AI as like a teaching assistant. It can handle those routine tasks like grading and providing personalized feedback, while the human teacher can focus on the things that AI can't do,
Like,
like building relationships, fostering creativity, and guiding students' social and emotional development.
so the teacher almost becomes more of a facilitator or a mentor,
Yeah,
someone who helps students navigate this AI-powered learning environment.
exactly. And this shift will require teachers to develop new skills and adapt to a new way of working.
Right.
But the report argues that AI actually has the potential to make teaching more effective, more engaging, and ultimately more rewarding.
That's reassuring to hear because while AI can do some pretty incredible things,
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that there's no substitute for that human connection in education.
Absolutely, and that's something that we need to keep at the forefront as we continue to explore the potential of AI in schools.
Well, this is definitely giving me a lot to think about.
Me too.
AI in schools, it's a complex topic
It is.
with both exciting possibilities and some very real concerns.
One thing is clear.
Okay.
AI is already changing the educational landscape,
Right.
and it's only going to become more influential in the years to come.
And that means we need to engage with these questions now
Absolutely.
to make sure that AI is used responsibly and effectively to benefit all learners.
I think that's a great point and a perfect place to take a little break.
Okay.
We'll come back and talk more about this in just a minute.
We've been talking about, how AI could change everything from personalized learning to the roles of teachers.
Yeah,
But I keep coming back to this question of how do we actually make all this work?
right.
How do we ensure that AI in schools is really a force for good?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the report actually outlines some key steps we can take to navigate this new territory. And I think one of the most important is developing very clear ethical guidelines for AI in education.
Okay, so like a set of rules for how AI can and can't be used to
Exactly.
make sure it doesn't perpetuate biases or violate students' privacy.
Precisely, these guidelines would need to address things like data security, algorithmic transparency, and how AI is used in assessments and decision-making. Right. It's really about making sure that AI is serving students and not the other way around.
Right, that makes sense, but guidelines are only as good as their enforcement, right?
Oh, that's true.
So who would make sure that schools are actually following these rules?
Well, that's where oversight comes in.
Okay,
And the report suggests kind of a multi-layered approach
okay.
involving government agencies, independent organizations, and even student advocacy groups.
Oh, so it's not just a top-down approach, but also about empowering students and communities to hold the system accountable.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece of it.
Yeah, I like that.
Students should absolutely have a voice in how AI is being used in their schools.
Right.
And they need to be educated about their rights and how to advocate for themselves in this new digital landscape.
Absolutely. Speaking of students, you mentioned earlier that teachers would need new skills to work effectively with AI. But what about the kids themselves?
No.
What do they need to learn to thrive in this AI-driven world?
That's a really key question. And the report emphasizes the need for a shift in focus
Okay.
from rote memorization to what are often called 21st century skills.
Okay.
Things like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, collaboration.
Right.
All those skills that AI can't replicate.
Because if AI can spit out facts and solve equations for us, knowing how to think critically about that information becomes even more important.
Precisely. It's not just about knowing the what, It's about understanding the why.
Mm,
Being able to analyze information from multiple sources.
Right.
And discern, fact from fiction.
yeah.
Whether that information comes from a human or from AI.
So information literacy becomes even more important, not less.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like we're moving from being, passive consumers of information to becoming active curators of our own knowledge.
Exactly. And that ties into another really important skill, which is digital citizenship. As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, understanding how to use technology responsibly, ethically, and safely is going to be essential.
So it's not just about, teaching kids how to code or use the latest AI app.
All
It's
right.
about helping them develop this critical and ethical framework for navigating this increasingly digital world.
Absolutely. And that starts with education.
Yeah.
We need to equip students with the tools and knowledge they need to be informed and discerning users of technology.
Right.
Able to recognize its potential pitfalls as well as its benefits.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the challenges so far.
We have.
But I want to circle back to the potential benefits for a minute.
Okay.
Because despite all the concerns, there is a lot to be excited about too, right?
Oh, absolutely. The report highlights some incredible possibilities for how AI can enhance learning and make education more equitable and accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got things like personalized learning, real-time feedback, immersive virtual reality experiences, and these are just a few examples.
Well, yeah, and don't forget about the potential for AI to support teachers,
Right.
to give them more time to really focus on that human element of education that we've been talking about.
Exactly. AI can handle those routine tasks,
Right,
freeing up teachers to do what they do best,
which is,
mentoring, guiding, inspiring their students.
it's like AI can be the wind beneath teachers' wings,
I like that.
helping them soar to new heights.
Yeah.
But I think the key takeaway here is that AI is a tool.
Yes, it is.
And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
That's right. The future of AI in schools isn't predetermined.
Mm.
It really depends on the choices we make today, the conversations we have, the values we prioritize.
So it's up to all of us, educators, policymakers, parents, students, to shape this future in a way that benefits everyone.
Precisely. And that means engaging with these really complex questions, being willing to have some difficult conversations, and working together to ensure that AI is used responsibly and ethically in education.
Well, this conversation has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It's clear that AI has the power to revolutionize education,
Uh-huh.
but it also comes with some big responsibilities.
It does, but I think it's important to approach this with a sense of optimism as well.
Okay.
AI has the potential to make education more equitable, more engaging, and more effective for all students.
And that's a future worth striving for.
Definitely.
But before we get too carried away with all the possibilities,
Yeah.
there's one more area I want to explore.
Okay.
We've talked about the practical implications of AI in schools.
Right.
But what about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
What about those philosophical questions that this technology raises about the very nature of education?
Oh, that's a great point. And honestly, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Shall we dive into that?
Okay, so we've talked about like all the nuts and bolts of AI in schools.
Yeah.
The potential, the risks, the to-do list, all that.
Right.
But now I'm kind of curious about those big philosophical questions that you mentioned.
Yeah. What keeps you up at night when you think about AI and education?
Well, if AI can truly personalize learning down to the individual level like we've been talking about,
Yeah.
it really challenges some of the fundamental assumptions we have about education.
Okay, like what?
Like what happens to the idea of a standardized curriculum?
Right. Like if my AI tutor knows I'm a math whiz, but I really struggle with writing essays, should my education look totally different from someone who's the opposite?
Yeah.
Do we even all need to learn the same things anymore?
That's exactly the kind of question that AI forces us to grapple with. And if everyone's on their own personalized track, how do we even measure success?
Right.
Traditional grades might become completely meaningless.
Okay, that's a bit mind-bending.
It is.
It's like we're rethinking the whole point of education.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
Yeah.
And it gets even more complex, I think, when we start thinking about the role of the teacher in all of this. If AI can handle a lot of the knowledge transfer, does that make the human element even more important?
Yeah, I'm picturing teachers less like, lecturers standing at the front of the classroom and more like coaches,
Right.
guiding students, helping them connect the dots, fostering those critical thinking skills.
Yeah, all the things AI can't replicate.
Exactly.
It's a very compelling vision.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it raises another big question, which is, What does it even mean to be educated in an age of AI?
Right.
Is it still about knowing a bunch of facts?
Yeah.
Or is it about knowing how to learn how to adapt, how to collaborate with both humans and machines?
Yeah, it's like if I can just ask my AI assistant for any fact at any time,
Right.
memorizing state capitals seems kind of pointless.
Exactly. The emphasis might shift more towards critical evaluation of information,
Okay.
knowing what questions to ask,
Right.
how to spot bias, how to synthesize different sources, whether they come from a human expert or an AI.
So again, we're back to information literacy being even more important.
More important than ever.
Yeah, it's not just about absorbing what's given to us. We're curating our own knowledge and constantly questioning, its validity.
Exactly. And that brings us, I think, to maybe the most profound question of all,
Okay.
which is what happens to human creativity when AI can generate text, art, music, even code, arguably better than most of us?
Okay, I'll admit that one sometimes keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Like if AI can write a sonnet in my style in seconds, what does that even say about human expression?
Well, some argue that it actually pushes us further,
Okay.
that we're freed from some of the technical limitations and able to really focus on the emotional core, the truly original ideas that AI can't quite grasp yet.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's like AI becomes a collaborator, a tool to amplify our own creativity, not replace it entirely.
And perhaps it forces us to confront what makes us uniquely human.
Okay.
Our capacity for empathy, for complex emotions, for asking those big why questions that even AI can't answer.
Wow, we really went deep there.
But we did.
It's amazing how a conversation about AI in schools can lead us to these fundamental questions about humanity.
It really speaks to the transformative power of this technology.
Yeah,
It's not just changing how we learn.
right.
It's making us re-examine what we learn and why.
So to wrap things up for our listeners today, AI in schools, it's happening.
It is.
It's exciting.
It is.
It's daunting.
It can be.
And it demands that we grapple with these big philosophical questions.
Absolutely.
And I think the most important takeaway here is that AI itself won't determine the future of education.
That's right.
We will.
Through the choices we make,
Right.
the conversations we have, the values we prioritize.
So dear listener, as you continue on your own learning journey,
Yeah.
whether you're a student, teacher, or just someone who's curious about the future,
Keep asking these questions.
keep asking those questions. What kind of education do you believe, and what role should AI play in shaping the minds of future generations?
Because those answers are really what's going to determine the impact of AI on schools.
And on that thought-provoking note, we'll leave you to ponder. This has been The Deep Dive. Until next time.